We're the Ibarras. I'm Robert.
Christina. We've been married for 4 and a couple days or whatever.
Going on 5 months, between 4
Yeah.
and 5 months.
3. Hi, this is Craig and Catherine Wheats, and we have been married for 23 years, going on 24 on April 21st.
Very good.
Did I pass?
Yes, you did.
Awesome.
I'm Roberta,
Yeah, my name is Al Walker.
and we've been married for going on 36 years.
I'm Alana Dema. This is Michael. We've been married 45 years, but we've known each other for 52.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Gentle.
Crazy.
Me? The word I'd use for her is fun. There we go.
Clearly.
Okay.
Did we pass? Oh, okay.
One word. You got one word.
I guess we should have talked about that before we got married. No. I'm kidding. Of course they're important. It's part of our faith. It's what we're called to do. I mean, we're not here just to get married because we're in love with each other and we want to travel the world. Our faith called us to, have children. So if it wasn't, then we need to be.
And we're lucky enough to already have one, so we're just working on the others.
We have been blessed with 2 sons who are adults now, and we have grandchildren.
How many grandkids?
3.
Awesome.
Three perfect grandchildren.
Yes, they are perfect.
Yeah, Dean is about 2.5. We've got a granddaughter that's about 9 months, and another one that's about 12 weeks old.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's right. I remember.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
young.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
That is a blessing.
We have 4 children, and the answer would be yes, they are a huge component of our marriage. The one thing I said, I think the best thing we can do for our kids, though, is to actually show a loving relationship between us as a couple, and we think that is very important for our children to see, and that will influence them to have a loving relationship when they get to be adults. And but we definitely feel like children are a very important piece of that
Awesome.
component of our marriage.
Any grandkids?
We have 1 grandchild as of end of September 27th.
Awesome.
And both of our oldest daughters have already gotten married, and our 2 sons are in college, so we're hopeful for them too.
Yep.
So.
Well, weekly celebration of the Mass, participating in the church community, and daily prayer.
Believe me,
Together.
it didn't start off that way. I mean, she, as a good Catholic woman, she married a pagan, and then bringing me kicking and screaming for probably the first 8 to 10 years until the magic of the Holy Spirit started to lower the walls, the barriers between me and Christ and me and the church, and started becoming more and more embracing. And having children certainly did help with that. Once you have a child and you just see that miracle that happens right before you, you just can't. The only way that you can fathom it is through the grace of God. So at that, those were like major boosts along the way. But since then, it's been a steady building plateau. And if we look at where we're at spiritually now compared to where we were 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, it just continues to get better each month of each year.
And everything we do, like when we start off the day, especially when we ride together to work, we like to pray the rosary. And it's just a very good way to be calm and have a good attitude toward work. And of course, we pray before meals, and then also night prayer together is very important. And then just in the things we do like what we watch on TV. We try to keep it clean and God-loving, and in the way we treat each other.
So we have to be very active. You can't just be a Sunday going to church and then it's all secular after that. You have to really engage and be a part of it. If not, you know, you're going to be fighting the rest of the world, and you need to have your faith close to you because you're always going to be fighting the world. And if you don't have that component, then you're going to be in trouble. So.
Do you want me to answer that first, or would you like to?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think, of course, praying together is very important for us. But I also think that it's, in order to keep God central, it's important for us to attend Mass together. So we try not to, as much as possible, attend Mass separately, even though we have busy schedules. We try to attend Mass together. And I also think doing things together in the church, whether it be SNL and just activities together, Bible studies, things like that, help us really understand that, you know, God is the center of our life, and that we need to really work hard to keep Him at the center. Mm-hmm. Would you want to add anything?
No, I ditto that.
Ditto. You get the answer to the next one.
Okay.
I think God's the center of our marriage because we started with a true marriage. When we first met, Lena was not practicing Catholic, and she became Catholic because we both believed that it was very important for us to share our God and our beliefs of God in the same way. And over the years, we keep God by simply going to church, saying grace at meals, sharing the responsibility of raising our kids in a godly way, because that is a responsibility, not something that was easy to do.
Right, and making sure that they get their sacraments, because that was very important to us. It wasn't at first, when we were first married, we thought, but after we had children, we figured it was our responsibility to make sure that they were brought up Catholic and knew what it meant to be Catholic.
So, and we have to constantly go back to God during the low points. You ask Him to help you up. During the high points, you remember to thank Him for what you've got together. That's a long story, and I'm going to abbreviate it. First of all, I was attracted to her because, well, if you believe in love at first sight, if you really believe in love at first sight, you're wrong. Okay? Love at first sight is really usually lust at first sight, and then what you have to do is develop over time the love. You have to understand what you are loving that is not outside the person, but rather inside the person. And you have to settle that through, because even sometimes when you don't agree, you have to convince each other or help encourage each other so that you know what's there.
And I think I fell in love with the blue eyes, first of all, but then after I got to know him, I found out what was behind the blue eyes, and that's really what made the attraction a lot.
I really like that. Why didn't you tell me that before?
I've always told you that.
Awesome.
Well, I'll speak to that. When he initially proposed or was thinking about asking for my hand or getting close to that, he said that he would never be selfish and ever cheat on me or do anything to destroy me or the family, and that he wanted to be my escort to heaven. And that sunk it right there. Because I need an escort, for sure.
For me, it wasn't, I don't know that it was like a lightning bolt kind of thing where it hit me immediately, but it was really, for me, it was kind of just growing in the relationship and getting to know Catherine and getting to slowly, surely understand her and be able to say, yeah, this is the person for me. This is it. It was really just through spending time and listening and getting to know her and understanding what she wanted in life and understanding things that were important to her. Family was important. You know, having a loving relationship was important. It it wasn't
faith.
in faith, and it was just those kinds of things that kind of, as I got to know her, was like, you know what, this is really something and someone that I can see spending my life with.
That's so sweet.
My answer is very simple to that. Through the tough times, you yell at each other, okay? You may yell at each other. Different people handle it different ways, but you can't hide from each other. You can't hide the differences. You can't hide the tough times. They're there in your face. So you got to face them, and you face them together. And the next thing is, through the tough times that concern each of you, in the differences between each of you, you have to learn to forgive. As humans, we can't forget, but you definitely are called by Jesus to forgive. And you have to forgive each other. So whenever there was a big argument, I'd say, I'm sorry, and she'd forgive me.
That's pretty funny.
The other person has to always give, you know, you've heard of it, well, you all both have to give 50-50, it has to meet each other halfway. Baloney. You have to give 100%. Each one gives 100, and sometimes 110% of themselves for the benefit of the other one.
Right. And like he said, you can't always forget, but you can forgive. So you just have to, you know, just say whatever went on, it's not as important as being together and
Right.
forgiving the other person
Right.
and asking God to help you, you know, get through it.
Well, there hasn't been a lot of lows. There's always some, but you know, we thank God for helping us not just to get through them, but to avoid them to begin with. And so, if we keep communicating, we just don't have a lot of low spots. But there have been some low spots, absolutely been some low spots, and you just got to keep on talking, and not. And if you stop talking, then you start drawing away from each other. You draw away from each other, and that's, you know, it's not something that we want to, not a path that we want to go down.
Right, and I think God did play a great role in that, you know, through prayer and consulting with other faithful people to help us through those rough times.
He's the focus, so we couldn't do anything without him. So, and everything that starts with God is always much better. So we always ask him for whatever that particular need was at that time, prayer, and we could even do fasting for that too, for that particular cause. Whatever it was that we needed to seek, all of it was God-centered to help us through whatever situation. So I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, the only other thing I would add, I would agree with everything that Catherine said, and of course it's important for me to do that. But anyway, but no, the other thing I would add is it's really important when you're going through rough times. When we went through the Engaged Encounter class as preparation for marriage, one of the things that we learned in there was that it's important for each person, don't rush when you're going through rough times, don't rush that, and let each person kind of come to that at their own level and through their own prayer and through that. So it isn't on your schedule, it should be on your spouse's schedule, and be sensitive to that and be ready to understand that it doesn't all, you have to be very sacrificial in the way that you approach marriage. One of the other, I think, key things too is when you're going through rough times is to really have the understanding and why marriage is such a sacrament, that our job here as part of our marriage is to raise a family, and to love each other, but ultimately it's also to get each other to heaven. And so when you're going through rough times, if you kind of keep in mind that your objective is to get your spouse to heaven, then that helps you also be able to persevere through the rough times.
And I think it's harder for him to get me to heaven.
Good
I
thing
tease
y'all
him
have
about
each
that all the
other.
time. Yeah.
So,
Well, it starts off a little rocky with maybe some arguing and some accusing, but the truth is we just have to model Christ and kind of die to ourselves and listen to what the other has to say instead of just seeing it as I'm always right.
It's not one-sided. It's communication, and you both have to compromise. I mean, that compromise is always going to be there. So whatever, it's not just about you anymore. It's about two people becoming one. So that one, or the two becoming one, is definitely a difference between yourself.
I think the secret to our marriage, seriously, is three things: love, God, and humor. Because if you cannot laugh at yourself during and after bad times and laugh with each other during good times, you just don't make the bond.
And I think also dual respect for each other. We respect each other's opinions even though we don't always agree with them.